What's up, guys? So very awesome news and information just dropped. We have a tier list of an area that you can actually farm to target farm very specific things. There's a brand new tool that lets you target a certain unique or maybe just a certain item that you're really trying to get for your build. Now in this game, obviously there's things like Shako that are super rare. We'll show you how to target farm specific uniques more so in a second, but I do want to go ahead and explain how this works. So there are certain monsters that exist in the Diablo world that have a higher drop chance, not specifically for a unique, but for that item type. So that can apply to just the uniques, that can apply to the item slot, but it comes down to what's called a monster family. So pretty much it comes down to them having a higher common pool of items that could drop. So for example, let's just look at this first one. The bandit monster type has a higher chance to drop daggers or maces. So if you're maybe looking for a very specific mace or dagger, unique or legendary, this would be a good way to get an upgrade for that department. Now there is this one over here, which I will still link you guys everything for the information. It tells you basically in this location, this is the monster type. You can see on the right side over here where it says creature type, you see beasts, spiders, goatmen. So it has the name of the monster and then what their chances are to drop in terms of it like being an S tier or like an F tier. Just kind of shows you the area. But I think there's a better tool that is from Diablo 4.life, and I'll link all of these down below, all of these tools. It's really helpful. So I'm going to use this really quick for every single class's kind of go-to for the most part. So starting right off with the Barbarian, and I want to start off with like the all classes first. So pretty much everyone really wants the Harlequin crest, that's the Shako. What's the best way to actually get this? And there's a way to actually read this. So there is areas that are considered high density or like a fast area, right? So it'll tell you to do these specific dungeons. And if it says the word sigil, that means you can get it on a sigil. Now, there is another strategy. What you want to do is keep just crafting a bunch of sigils. Once you get to the point where you're just able to keep on crafting sigils because you'll have enough dust to basically make more, the goal is not to just run randomized sigils in terms of doing nightmare dungeons, but to delete any of the ones that don't follow under the category of being able to potentially drop your items. So basically choose any of these. These would be ideally good. But on top of that, to get a bonus, you would actually look for a sigil that has bonus magic find to that area. Now, just as a heads up, Shako does not drop until 85 and it requires world tier 4. There are certain rules to certain things, and that's why I wanted to make this video to explain what the rule is. Now, in terms of the monster families, what's the additional drop chance? I have no idea what the official percent is. I've heard people say that you have double chance. I've heard people say you have 5 times chance. I don't know. We actually don't have the raw hard code for this yet, but at the end of the day, if there's a higher chance, even if it's by 1%, that can actually make a pretty big difference, but it's specifically looking at the drop table in terms of like what can these monsters actually drop. So it still at the end of the day is helpful, and this tool is excellent for that. So to go over like again the more popular ones, so if you're looking to get Shako, this is your best option. These dungeons, ideally you'd want to run the ones that say high density fast and that are sigils, and then on top of that, because nightmare dungeons have a higher chance to drop items in general, it's the best place. This was officially tweeted out, but it comes down to also having that magic find. So if you have a bunch of dust, keep on destroying all the sigils that are not going to be these ones, and then it has like kind of like here's like the S tier, then it goes like B tier, and then it goes to like the worst ones, right? But there's another item that I think a lot of people really want, and that is Penitent Greaves. I get asked this consistently. Where do you get the Penitent Greaves? Well, they are going to be from the monster type, the Drowned. This one can actually be obtained in World Tier 3, just as a heads up. Some people were asking about that, but yeah, basically you want to kill the Drowned monsters, and these are the dungeons that actually happen to have the monster archetype. But other than that, there is technically Temerity is seen in a lot of builds. I think Temerity is a pretty cool weapon slot to, or it's actually a pants slot to fill up. If you want to, again, each round are going to be your type. Now, what's even cooler with this tool, it allows you to select multiple. So let's say like I really want, to be honest, everyone wants Shako, okay? Let's say I really want Shako, but I also want Penitent Greaves. What are the ones that maybe have both of these in the pool? Some will not have both of them in the pool and they will be separated, but there are some that will overlap. It's basically the slot. So if I was to select like, let's say Andariel's and Shako, they're both considered helmets, but there is going to be certain things that can be a benefit. So I'm just going to go over all the classes really quick because I think most people just want to know like, okay, I'm playing Barbarian. I really want to know where can I get Gore's Devastating Grips? Well, there you go. Blind Burrows is one of those. So just check out this. Again, this is going to be a great thing. So what you want to kill are specifically spiders. So that's for Gore's Devastating Grip. This one's also very popular for Barbarian, the Rage of Hargoth. So this is the one that gives you cooldown for your shouts, basically, but it's just the non-ultimate. But again, you're looking at the beast monster archetype, so again, blind burrows would be excellent for this. But now I'm going to select 2 so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So let's say I want the gloves. So right now I'm looking at spiders plus, so it's showing me blind burrows is going to be excellent because it's going to be having both of those items in the same category. Okay, so you guys pretty much, I think at this point, get the idea. But if I was to select, let's say, druid, the druid unique that everyone wants is the helmet over here, the Tempest Roar, and there's a few people that also want the other one, but they're going to be in the same category because they're the helmet. So you want cultists, so you want to do these ones over here. And then I'm just going to again show off all of the classes. There might be some other ones, but I'm just going over like the main one that a lot of people genuinely want. As far as Necro goes, I know people really like the ring for any of the minion builds, so this is one exception in terms of a rule, which is great that we actually went over this one. So as far as this goes, I guess there's the Deathless Visage over here if you want to know. It's just cultists, but there are certain items, like specifically the rings and the amulets. Now if you're looking like at this and you're thinking, well, which one do I farm? So rings and amulets are kind of an exception. It has it in this little like thing down here. It says jewelry base have no bonus drops anywhere. So what that means is that well, you can't target farm those uniques or any of the, like, let's say aspect that, let's say, specifically rolls on rings, let's say umbral, for example. And with that, you might just want to actually go to the obols and use the obols as a source to get your rings and amulets because they have no other like bonus chance to get. Whereas if you want to go for unique, let's say gloves, you actually can target farm specific things if you want to go ahead and do so. And then on rogue, as far as the uniques go, there really isn't any good uniques on the rogue, to be honest, so there isn't really anything to select. But I know there's some people that really like Ashiras or even the Condemnation, but you can see just looking for bandits. But again, there's not a really good rogue unique. They're all kind of bad. The one that I would maybe give an exception to is maybe Sky Hunter, because you can get a decent amount of resource and you can get guaranteed crit. So what you would be looking for are the ghosts. So this is like the way you would go for. But again, rogue doesn't really have any good uniques. Now, as far as the sorceress, there are actually a few really decent ones. So the teleport chest, this one can drop in blind burrows. You can see why maybe blind burrows is one of the best dungeons to actually farm. But on top of that, you can see the other areas. But ideally, you want to see the ones that have the tags. So you can do this in it's good because it's fast, high density, and you can do it on the sigil. Again, keep on re-rolling those sigils until you see the bonus magic find. And then there's also Ice Heart. So if you want to get those are from Drown. Those are the pants. And on top of that, you can also get Penitent Degrees, which some people do actually like to get. But those are the main ones with these main classes. But another thing I wanted to add to this video, because a lot of these are based off of doing the nightmare dungeons, right? There's a really good page over here that just got showed off. So I will link this also because it kind of ties in. If you're trying to target farm, you might as well learn the map, right? So let's say I want to do a map and I was looking at blind burrows. Again, I'll link this down below. It shows me the entire map layout, which is super helpful because what I would do is, honestly, I would print these up. I'm going to print these out and then I'm going to have little things that I'm just going to use like post-it notes or something. But this would really help out. This way you can see the entire path and you can kind of start pathing. Eventually, I'm sure someone will make a path guide for 100% efficiency in terms of, you know, go down here first, go down, like it'll eventually be made. I'm sure someone will do it. But yeah, this really helps out to do, you know, your speed runs, because if you're going to be farming a bunch of these nightmare dungeons back to back to back, you might as well learn how the dungeon layout works, and this will be another great little tool. Another thing that I wanted to mention with this whole target farming, this does not just include uniques. I know I basically just talked about uniques, but this also applies to your aspects. If I'm specifically looking for an aspect that rolls on, let's say, rings, or let's say it rolls in the offensive slot meaning the gloves or the weapons, I could factor that in as well using this, and I would be able to kind of target farm that specific aspect. Or if I need an upgrade, let's say like my item powers, you know, at the point where I'm only looking for 800 plus, you know, daggers or swords. You'd want swords usually over daggers, but let's say I was looking for those one-handed swords. Hey, Alderwood is going to be the best option to not only get the uniques in terms of, you know, uniques legendaries, but also just getting those rare items so that you can craft and convert them. So this is going to be a great area to go ahead and see this visually, as well as I'll link, like I said, everything down below. But this is how you target farm very specific weapons, uniques in the game. But honestly, in terms of like Shako, I'm just going to warn you guys as a heads up, as far as the data that we have, getting some of these uniques, like let's say Doombringer or Shako, there's not like a very specific one that has all like the super rare ones. But it comes down to these items are going to be very rare. But realistically, some of the other ones, getting them for very specific classes, again, with like Sorceress, it's really good to be able to get that. And I know Druid specifically, trying to get that Tempest Roar helmet, it's kind of difficult. But at the end of the day, at least you have somewhat of a better chance with the whole monster families. But that's going to go ahead and wrap up things. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn that bell, and check the pinned comment. I'll link everything down below, as well as some more other Diablo content for you guys. But take care. See you in the next one.